Hey guys, this is Benny Ricciardi with rotocurve.com, and I'm here with our DraftKings NFL video for Conference Championship weekend. It's going to be our last NFL video for the year, considering that there's only going to be one game next weekend and no DFS action to talk about. So what we're going to do here is we're going to break down all four of these teams and kind of highlight the guys who we think are going to be the top producers for them. This way you can make sure to get them in your lineup and get one more profitable weekend at an NFL DFS before we say goodbye to it for the better part of the next 6 months until next August, basically. So let's call up the slideshow and talk about the guys that we like this week. There's 4 teams left playing. We got New England Patriots against the Denver Broncos and the Carolina Panthers against the Arizona Cardinals. First team we're going to talk about is the New England Patriots. They're favored by 3 on the road in a game with a low total at, I think it's only 42 at the moment. They're likely going to try to attack through the middle, either by ground or through the air. That means you're going to get guys like Edelman in the slot, who's going to be a reception monster, and you're probably going to get some catches for Gronk as well, pretty much all over the field. But Gronk's big value comes from the fact that he's a huge red zone threat and a guy who has big touchdown upside in this one. I'm not loving Tom Brady's upside at his price here versus a pretty stout defense. I do think he throws a touchdown pass or two, probably gets 220 to 260 yards in this game, but I don't think he's going to have a huge upside. So I don't think he's one of the guys that I'm really looking to pay up for. As a matter of fact, he's probably towards the bottom of the list of quarterbacks that I would be looking to use this weekend. The last thing I want to mention, Steven Jackson at $3,000. If you watched the game last week, James White was in for like 80% of the snaps. But James White only took 1 carry in that whole game. He was more in there as pass protection, guy that could run out and catch a pass or two in the flat if they needed him to. But he really wasn't in there as a guy who was looking to run the ball. The guy who they did run the ball with was Steven Jackson, who had 6 or 7 carries for like 20 yards, nothing spectacular. I do think they're going to try to keep the ball on the ground a little more in this game, and I have a feeling that, Steven Jackson would be the goal line back if they do get into that situation. Now, the thing I like about New England, and this is why I like Gronk, is even when they do get down in the red zone, they're probably still going to be passing, and that's why Gronk is somebody who's a good bet this weekend. I think you can definitely roll with the 2 tight ends this weekend, going with Gronk and Olsen. But if I had to choose between the 2 of them, I'm not sure if Gronk is number 1 on my list this week. Next team we're going to talk about is the Denver Broncos. They're an underdog at home in a low-scoring game. It's going to be tough for them to run against a pretty solid Patriots run defense, especially if they are trailing in this game. So I think we might have to see Peyton Manning throw. I have a feeling that Belichick's going to stack the box, put all 11 guys up within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage, and kind of force Denver to have to beat them deep. I don't know if Peyton Manning's going to be able to do it, but I do think he's going to have a lot of pass attempts in this game. I feel like he has a good chance to finish with numbers similar to Brady's because he has a much softer matchup and Brady has a really tough matchup. But you're getting Peyton at such a discount that it's tough for me to go Brady over Peyton in this one. Although, like I said, I don't really expect Peyton to have a great game. Neither do I expect Brady to have a great game. I think you're a lot better off holding off on the quarterbacks and looking in the second game that we have on the schedule here. As I said, Peyton does have the softest matchup through the air of any of the QBs this week. It's not that New England gave up a ton to quarterbacks per se. They did give up a lot of fantasy points to the wide receiver position, though. And with Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders on the outside, those are 2 pretty good wide receivers that the Broncos have there. I think both of those wide receivers are in play, although I wouldn't play them together. I think you really have to decide, do you think they're going to take away Demaryius, making it a Sanders game, or do you think that, they kind of play it straight up, in which case Demaryius probably gets the nod over Sanders for me. Last thing I want to mention about the Denver Broncos here. Yes, Hillman is listed as a starting running back, and he does do a lot of the running on the ground in the first half. But C.J. Anderson's been the guy near the goal line, and he's also been the guy in the 3rd and 4th quarter. So if Denver does happen to get a lead, which is when the running game would really be in full effect, I think it's C.J. Anderson. Plus, I also think it's C.J. Anderson in the red zone. So for me, if you're choosing between Anderson and Hillman, I think I like C.J. Anderson a little bit more. Next game we're going to talk about, Carolina Panthers against the Arizona Cardinals. Panthers are favored at home in the higher total game on the day. So there's 47 points expected in this one. Panthers are about a 3 or 4 point favorite, depending on where you look. Their offensive line was dominant in that first half against the Seahawks. I mean, they were giving Jonathan Stewart so much room to run. They kept the ball on the ground. They controlled it. Cam wasn't getting hit. They were giving him time to throw. The offensive line, I think, is going to be a big key to this game because we know that Arizona does like the blitz and they do have a good front. So that, that offensive line is really going to need to make sure that they control it and take care of it and push them off the ball like they did last week. If they do that, I think Carolina's got a good chance here. Cam Newton can account for touchdowns with both his arm and his legs, so I think that's a good thing, especially in this game. You're expecting them to be the higher scoring of the two teams, and as we've already seen all year long, whenever Carolina does something positive, Cam Newton's usually involved one way or another. I think the best matchup for his pass catchers is for Greg Olsen. Olsen's in a great spot versus a team that usually gives up points to the tight end. They haven't been as bad this year as they've been in years past, but they do blitz a little bit, and teams that blitz do tend to get beat, on those short, quick passes over the middle, a lot of which do go to tight ends or slot receivers. So on this Carolina Panthers team, I think those passes are going to go Greg Olsen's way. Plus, we all know that Olsen's a big red zone threat and Cam's favorite receiver on top of that. So I do think that this is a good spot to use him. Not really big on any of the wide receivers for the Carolina Panthers. Ted Ginn could be a home run threat if you wanted him. I think of the cheap guys, the one I like the best is Corey Philly Brown. He's a guy who saw more snaps than Funchess and Jericho Cotchery combined last week. So to me, he's the safest if you have to punt. Doesn't come into play as much on DraftKings, but if you're over on FanDuel looking for a cheap wide receiver option, I think Corey Brown is one of the ones that I like, especially if you're using Cam Newton. Last team we're going to talk about, the Arizona Cardinals. They're underdogs versus Carolina in a high total game. I think they're going to be forced to throw as Carolina shut down the run last week against Seattle. I do think David Johnson is the most talented running back that we have here, but he may not do a ton on the ground, although I think he still returns good value for you if you pay up for him, basically based on the number of catches that I expect him to get here. Carson Palmer has been solid, cash game consistent all year long. Again, he wouldn't have had a big game last week without the overtime. The overtime was able to get him over the 300-yard mark, also able to get him that last touchdown to Larry Fitzgerald, which, put him up there as one of the top scoring QBs for the week. But he is a solid cash game guy. He should get you somewhere in the range of, 20 to 25 fantasy points. And again, you really can't argue with that kind of production. He's going to throw at least 2 touchdowns because he does it all the time. He's going to be throwing the ball probably 35 plus times in this game. And if they're down, we could even see him throw it 40 plus times in this game, come away with 300 yards, maybe 2 or 3 scores, and, be the top scoring quarterback on the week, even in a losing effort. If I have to choose a wide receiver from Arizona, I really like Larry Fitzgerald. He's going to be lined up in the slot, so he's going to avoid going up against Josh Norman in this game. I also think that, coming off those catches last week and with him being, having such a good year this year, I mean, he's really had a good season that's kind of gone under the radar. Like 6 catches for 85 to 90 yards and a touchdown was like almost a lock for him earlier in the year. Kind of faded a little bit down the stretch, but again, had a big game last week, especially a big overtime. Had that 60-yard run, the big stiff arm to get, all the way down inside the 10-yard line. Caught the touchdown pass on the shovel pass to score the touchdown. So I really like Larry Fitzgerald. I have no problem paying up for him this week. And I think that, he's a guy who's actually going to go a little bit lower owned with everybody talking about, how much they love Michael Floyd and how John Brown was the guy who saw all the targets last week. Again, I mean, Larry Fitzgerald's a guy who's tried and true, and we've seen him do it before. So I have absolutely no problem going back to the well with him. As far as defenses go, I would like to stay to the lower total game. I think I'm going to be going with the Patriots defense against Peyton Manning, who's thrown an interception in every game that he started so far in the regular season. Peyton Manning finished the season with like 9 touchdowns and 17 interceptions or something absolutely crazy like that. By far the worst stats of any of the quarterbacks still left in the playoffs here. I know that the New England defense is probably the weakest of the defenses that are left, but I can see them getting a lead. I could see them having a chance for a pick 6 against Peyton, and I could also see them getting some sacks because Peyton at this stage in his career is really not outrunning any pressure. He's either throwing the ball away or he's taking a hit and trying to hold on to it and taking a sack. Both of those things are going to be good for us for daily fantasy purposes. So like I said, it's a little bit sad. Last time I'm going to be giving you guys some NFL knowledge for, the 2015-16 season for a couple months. Thank you for all your support. Thank you guys for watching the videos. Thank you guys for signing up and joining and, helping this Roto Curve community really grow. We're back here every day with our NBA stuff, and we'll be here with NBA stuff every day going up to baseball season. We'll have some NBA and some, MLB overlap going on, and then we'll switch off to baseball mode. And eventually, if you're just a football-only guy, make sure you check back in August. Josh and myself will probably still be here doing these videos for you guys and, getting you ready for the next football season. So good luck, everybody, in this last week of NFL DFS. It was a hell of a season. A little bit sorry to see it go, but we do appreciate all the support that you guys have given us. And as always, stay classy, DFS.